questions orales. Honorable chef.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Speaker, fewer than 3 years were necessary for this government to reverse the efforts and sacrifices of Canadians that thought they had put aside federal deficits as a thing of the past. Will the Prime Minister admit that his own budget choices, his decision to spend more than any of his predecessors, his decision to eliminate the contingency reserve, have placed Canada on the brink of a deficit? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. On the contrary, Mr. Speaker, Canada is a country that remains in surplus. It's the only country in the G7 to do so, the only major industrialized country to do so. Mr. Speaker, we had a good discussion among the leaders of the G20 last weekend. We are united in our position that our governments will do everything necessary, taking financial, monetary and tax measures to increase the growth of Canada's and the world's economy. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is the one who transformed a $13 billion surplus into a deficit. The Parliamentary Budget Officer said today that, and I quote, "The weak fiscal performance to date is largely attributable to previous policy decisions as opposed to weakened economic conditions." Will the Prime Minister admit that even though his government is ideologically conservative, it is certainly not fiscally conservative?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Once again, this is one of the very few industrial countries that remains in a surplus position. Mr. Speaker, it is correct that the surplus is weaker than it was in the past because this government took deliberate action to provide long-term tax stimulus to the economy as the economy was slowing. That was the right fiscal decision, and it was supported by Canadians. And Mr. Speaker, we will take additional fiscal stimulus as we agreed at the G20 if necessary. Mr. Speaker, anybody who would say that in the midst of a global recession that they would turn around and raise taxes or cut essential spending, that would be an ideological position that this government has no intention of following.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, if he saw that coming, why then did he eliminate the contingency reserve? It doesn't make sense.
No.
Fiducie de revenu, promesse reniée.
The Atlantic Accord, broken promise. Fixed date elections, broken promise. No deficit, broken promise. How can Canadians who are worried about their savings, their jobs, their pensions, believe this Prime Minister who keeps on contradicting himself and disregarding the principles of sound economic management? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the electors made their decision.
The Leader of the Opposition or anybody else to fight the next election, last election over again. Fact of the matter, Mr. Speaker, is we put our economic plan clearly before the public. Mr. Speaker, they know that we took measures to stimulate this economy deliberately, and Mr. Speaker, they can be assured that we will take whatever measures are necessary to protect the Canadian economy in difficult times, and I would ask the Leader of the Opposition to provide specifically his ideas about what those best measures might be.
The Honourable